Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain, where we've got coffee, we've got books, and actually we've got a pretty overcast day that is definitely at least giving us the feeling of rain. And our coffee today is a homemade misto, which I steamed up some oat milk and just utilized my coffee that I had in my percolator. So that was what I decided I wanted to go with today. But you are seeing me today kind of with a no makeup on whatsoever. It is kind of one of those lazy days where I don't have plans until way later this afternoon, have not really gotten myself kind of put together, but knew I needed to get these episodes recorded. So I hope you guys don't mind that y'all are kind of getting the most authentic version of Rachel that y'all will probably see in a while. I did at least brush and fix my hair a little bit, even though going out in the rain has made it a little fuzzy, a little little frizzy, so to speak. But, you know, we do what we must when we got to take the puppies outside. And we're going to talk about books. So I don't think I always have to dress up for these sorts of conversations. So I hope you guys don't mind. But today we're going to talk about Babylonia by Costanza Casati. Now, Costanza Casati came across my radar, a little while ago when I read her book, Clytemnestra. That was a beautifully written book. So I knew when this book came across my radar and I was approved for it in NetGalley that this was also going to be a phenomenal book. I'm wondering why my tablet is not wanting to auto rotate so I can see everything all nice and up and down, but that's okay. We are just going to go with it because I like to have my NetGalley or my Goodreads in front of me when I read the summary to you all, because I can't regurgitate the summary when I haven't read it yet. But it's not auto rotating. Oh, there it goes. Perfect. I just had to finagle it a bit. But this is still getting some really good reviews on Goodreads. It has still about 4.4 stars, and it does release... it says it's first published of June 13th of 2024, which I didn't know this book was already out, because I, at least as far as I knew, have it written down from the NetGalley website as coming out on 1/14. So it would have come out maybe a week ago as of the release date of this episode. So that's what I was thinking, is that at least based on the publication date that I saw in NetGalley, I thought this book was coming out on or around January 14th. However, according to Goodreads, it looks as though this book was first published on June 13th of 2024. So you may be able to go ahead and go find it. It's got a really pretty cover, and it's about 400 pages. I did have the ebook, and I read through it very quickly. Now, I love being able to dive into myth and legend. I do have a master's degree in English literature. I did utilize my master's degree thesis in order to focus primarily on epic poetry, and so did a lot of work and research with regards to epic poetry from a lot of different cultural standpoints. So being able to dive into a work that can also dives into myth and legend of other cultures beyond just the realm of Greek and Roman, Viking, and Celt, I really love that. So we do dive into more of a Mesopotamian, ancient Sumerian, Assyrian sort of myth and legend. And so let us read the summary first, and we'll go from there. From the author of the best-selling Clytemnestra comes intoxicating excursion into ancient history as Casati reimagines the rise to power of the Assyrian Empire's only female ruler, Semiramis. Yeah, I think Semiramis is the way is I think is the way, because when you read something on page, sometimes you're not sure if you're saying it right in your brain. So I do hope I'm saying it the way it's intended. When kings fall, queens rise. Nothing about Semiramis's upbringing could have foretold her legacy or the power she would come to wield. A female ruler, once an orphan raised on the outskirts of an empire, certainly no one in ancient Assyria would bend to her command willingly. Semiramis was a woman who knew if she wanted power, she would have to claim it. There are whispers of her fame in Mesopotamian myth. Semiramis was a queen, an ambitious warrior, a commander whose reputation reaches the majestic proportions of Alexander the Great. Historical record, on the other hand, falls eerily short. In her second novel, Costanza Casati brilliantly weaves myth and ancient history together to give Semiramis a voice, charting her captivating ascent to a throne no one promised her. The world Casati expertly builds is rich with dazzling detail and will transport her reader to the heat. To the heat. I would imagine that would be the heart, but to the heat of the Assyrian Empire and a world long gone. But so, kind of going from there, I think just having an issue with my tongue and my brain kind of saying the things that I wanted it to say at the same time. So apologies there. I either need more or less coffee to get those things lined up. But I thought this book was really good. Now, it does fall into what the genres that are listed are historical fiction, mythology, fantasy, etc. And it does say it's also a retelling, probably because it is more of like that mythological retelling, that we have this individual, Semiramis, who is part of Mesopotamian myth. However, it seems as though historical record tends to omit her from a lot of, recorded history. And so it's kind of like we have Gilgamesh, and that is an epic poem, but we don't know how much of it's real and how much of it is just myth and legend. So I guess Semiramis falls into a similar category, though it's not an epic poem. There's a lot of myth and legend surrounding it. We just don't know how much history, because written history and documented history was a little more lax at the time, and they didn't always document female exploits the way they did masculine exploits. And, to the victor goes the spoils usually, and history is frequently written by the victors. So we often get these omissions when people find that certain things, just kind of saying, may not be looked on as popularly as other things. So it is very possible that having a female ruler may not have looked great on paper, so they may not have recorded as much of it. So it may have been lost to some myth and legend. Who knows? But I loved reading this story. I thought it was really fantastic. I loved seeing this powerful woman who really was and started the story pretty much she started as an orphan. Her mother, and we'll just kind of start at the beginning. Her mother was in love with who seems to be a priest at a temple. And when her mother fell pregnant and she told the priest was pretty much like, that's not my kid, washed his hands of the whole situation and left. The mother, being so heartbroken, had the child, but then threw herself into the river. Now, of course, myth and legend said that she was so beautiful, she either became a river deity or something of that nature, or her body was like lying in the bottom of the river. We can always speculate, but that's where Semiramis is kind of her origins are from. She was born out of wedlock, and she was orphaned very quickly after birth, and she grew up in a very unhappy household. The man who took her in, he does have a son that we learn about later on. He does not treat Semiramis very kindly, and so when it comes to her starting to become a woman, he gets very angry at her for not even telling him, because now he sees her as more like as property that he can sell off to a husband. And she is very independent, very willful, and she's kind of been stealing some things. Well, lo and behold, she is able to kind of spin that on its head and make it seem as though he's the one who's been stealing these things. And because of the way he's been treating her, the situation kind of goes down the way she wants it to go down, and thus she is more or less free of his tyranny. And she ends up leaving her village with a new husband. And this new husband is like a governor, or like the second hand to the king of Assyria. And so it is very interesting because she had never imagined herself to possibly get married. She had originally kind of sworn that sort of life off. She had kind of seen how men treated women and was kind of like, I don't want that for myself. But then she meets Onus, who really treats her, I don't want to say like an equal, but treats her pretty well. He seems as though on paper to be a pretty good husband. However, he does have one, I don't want to call it a fatal flaw, but there is one thing about him, if you read the book, that seems to be, I don't want to say a deterrent, but he also seems to have possibly another love interest. And that's where we also meet Ninus. And Ninus is the king of Assyria, who Onus has been, who's grown up with. And they have been pretty much best friends and each other's confidants for pretty much their whole lives. So I'm not going to dive into that. I will let you guys read that. Honestly, I think it's really, up until I learned something else, I thought it was like, oh, okay, I'm like, this is, it's fine with me, up until I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not as okay with it as I thought I was. But I don't want to give spoilers away. I just want to give you guys enough nuggets to kind of want you guys to read it. Again, I thought this book was really well done. I didn't find as much fantastical elements as I really thought I was going to. I think it was a little bit more dramatic and powerful. I do find the historical fiction where historical in the fact that we're able to speculate this is something that potentially had, there's possibility that there are nuggets of truth ingrained with the fantastical or the fictional elements of making up the story between the pieces that we have. And I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine and completely comfortable with the what ifs and imagining that this individual gains this power. Like, whether it did or didn't happen, I don't even care, because I think the story is great. Had a really wonderful time diving back into the world of Casati. I think she is so good with her prose, and just the way her turn of phrase is beautifully done. She's really able to put a lot of power and heart and feeling into her writing to make her, not only her female characters very, like, Semiramis is not a character that's a pushover, but she's also not a character that's overly independent, and I think she's able to find that balance very well. in writing these characters that feel real and feel authentic in a very good way. It makes the story much more enjoyable to read. I will say Onus and Ninus are, as someone said, they are like the messiest characters, and I kind of agree with that. They are kind of messy in some pretty good ways and then some pretty bad ways, so y'all just got to work with that. They're complex. All the characters in this books are complex and like just so multifaceted. So really, really give her some great kudos there. But I am going to stop with my review there because I don't want to give anything away. I just want to give you guys my briefest of reviews because I would love for you guys to go out, dive into this book, see what you think, and come back and let me know. But with all of that being said, I hope you will like and subscribe and tune in next time for whatever we may be reading. And I will see you all on the next page. I hope you have a great one. Bye.